of ego.
The thing I first remember that when I first met him was Adrian's real depth of sensitivity he had. He didn't come on with a lot of bravado, but he was very, very smart and sensitive about the way he wanted to approach things. And so that I kind of fell in under his wing in a sense. He made it a very, very warm and creative space to try things.
But when he started working with Jennifer, he says, we got to get a double. We got to get somebody who's a professional dancer to do this. She's not a trained dancer. I can make it look perfect and seamless with Jennifer as long as I get a double. And then he auditioned all these young ladies and found one that he thought was fantastic, and she ended up doing a lot of the dance work in the movie.
Yes, her name was Marine Jahan, and she happened to be French. And it's curious, really, how the press found out that she had done most of Jennifer's dancing, and they felt that it was kind of a cheat or something. I guess, and there was a huge amount of press about it, which I think worked for the film, funnily enough.
Brewing underground kind of break through to the mainstream.
We were in New York doing our casting and scouting locations and looking for things to do. We went to this roller rink. It was a Monday night, and the place was empty. And except in one corner, there were these kids who came in from Brooklyn and the Bronx, and every Monday they do their dances, and that's where breakdancing started. And Adrian and I looked at this and said, we got to use this in the movie. We got to figure out a place to put it.
They were called the Rock Steady crew, and at that stage they were kind of rival gangs in the Bronx that invented this sort of dancing. And I guess they kind of did it instead of fighting each other, you know what I'm saying?
He was just grabbing that stuff and doing it as he was going. It was like watching a great musician improvise.
It's nice when you sort of do research about Pittsburgh, and I read an article about a cop who had just retired, and he did this sort of routine, a kind of a mime routine, pretending to shoot people.
And Dawn Steele became the executive of Flashdance. It became her first project. Simpson and Bruckheimer became partners. It became their first project. Eventually, I became associate producer on the project, and Flashdance went on its long route to getting made.
I'd made a movie called Foxes that nobody went to see, with Jodie Foster and Sally Kellerman. And I guess the tough thing really is sort of getting your first movie off. I mean, that's the really tough thing. But having done that, nobody was really interested in me doing another one. So then Dawn Steele offered me this script to Flash.
Faith in Don's ability and his creative instincts.
Don was the most extraordinarily enthusiastic person, and he was somebody who could consume you, this guy. And it was all for the movie. I mean, he was just passionate about the script and what we're going to do with it. I remember once getting on the phone with Don Simpson.
Who was working in New York, and when we came into New York, when we saw a lot of women there, and this one girl who she'd worked with called her up and said, I'm in town, I'm just coming back from Europe, I'm about to start college in the fall. And she said, you gotta come in right now. And the only reason she was in New York was because her luggage got lost. She had to wait for her luggage to come back.
Well, when I first met Jennifer Beals, she just got off a plane and she lost all of her luggage. I remember that. So she was in a very emotional state. I was just bowled over with the way she looked, just her face. She had a kind of a glow. She was 17, and it's like you go, God, I've got her at the right time. And she came in and she did a bit of dancing. And honestly, she wasn't the world's best dancer, so I wasn't taking her for that, you know. But she had just a terrific quality, and I kind of knew immediately that she was right for this thing.
And Adrian looked at her and said, that's the girl. I mean, he knew right away. She had no makeup on. He worked with her for at least an hour and a half, trying to get a performance out of her. And she wasn't somebody who'd actually been studying acting, but Adrian was somebody who loves to give young people an opportunity and likes fresh talent and felt he could get a good performance out of her.
Some nights I just can't wait to get out there, just so I can disappear.
She had a kind of a vulnerability as well as looking extraordinary. And I knew, you know, that she didn't necessarily have to do the dancing. I could get somebody else to help with that.
No, it's interesting because after we did the test, every one of us had a different girl who was our favorite girl. And what Michael Eisner did, we showed the test to Michael, and Michael took all the secretaries from the floor and brought them into the screening room and said, who do you like? And they all picked Jennifer, the same girl that Adrian wanted.
I was living in New York doing an off-Broadway play, and I got a call about a picture that Sam Peckinpah was doing called the Osterman Weekend. So I met with Sam Peckinpah, and he said, I'd like you to be in my movie. And then my agent gave me a script with the unlikely title of Flashdance. Scrolled across the page. I thought, what a strange title this is. What could this be about? And my agent said, just read it, see what you think. So I read it. And I liked it. I thought it was a very sweet story. So I went in and met with Adrian Lyne, and my agent said to the Paramount people, well, we've got another offer, and you guys have to make your move by 6 o'clock. Otherwise, he's going to go do Peckinpah's movie. And I was fine with that. I mean, how can you lose? Turns out, the Peckinpah movie didn't do very well, and Flashdance became iconic. Hello, dancer.
Hi.
And I was introduced to Adrian, and Adrian said, hello, I'm Adrian Lyne. I said, hello, I'm Kyle Hefner. And he goes, so what was all this waving of the arms you were doing? I said, what are you talking about? Because we were looking out the window, and we could see you waving your arms about over in the corner. So he had been seeing me the whole time, and somehow I think that my Tai Chi helped me eventually get the role. And then I had one more audition where standing there right outside the office was an incredibly beautiful young girl, and she had a bag of candy, and I said, hi, and she said, hi. She said, I'm Jennifer, and I said, I'm Kyle, nice to meet you. She said, would you like some candy? And I said, I'd love some. So we stood there and ate candy and talked for a little bit, and that might have been the actual final callback, just to see how well I could eat candy with Jennifer and how well we got along.
But in the end, the reason I do these things is for the actors, really. I mean, people say, oh, he makes it look nice, you know, and hopefully I do. But what I do like is that with the actors, you know, that's for me what is exciting, because you can have a shitty looking movie with great actors and great performances, and, you know, the movie works. But a great looking nothing never works.
town, and since Pittsburgh was a steel town.
He's a big smoke guy, commercials, you know. It looked like the place was on fire. It just was like so smoky.
And so there was a lot of panic at the studio about me using smoke. So an edict came out, no more smoke. But I couldn't just stop, you know, because I'd done half of the movie with smoke, and you can't just change the look of it. So after that, somebody was always on the door to tell me when to hide the smoke can, you know.
I certainly knew that Michael Kaplan, the fantastic costume designer, was creating a new fashion, because every place I went, whether it was in Texas or at Disneyland or in Venice, I saw torn t-shirts and torn sweatshirts and leg warmers galore. And it's when I first learned the power of this medium.
I was very excited by the look that we were putting together for Jennifer. Not just the cut-off sweatshirt, but just everything. The big heavy man's top coat that she was wearing, the fact that she was wearing maybe 3 scarves, 3 mufflers at the same time. She'd wear leggings or leotards with a big sweatshirt or t-shirt. Dancers wore leg warmers. I mean, that's what dancers wore. I think the way Jennifer wore them in the film was just such a sexy look. You know, covering up the bottom of the leg and exposing the top of the leg. And I think just doing things in a slightly different way than people were used to seeing them made a different kind of statement.
I had never seen a woman take her bra off without removing her blouse or her shirt. And I think
Adrian, against the studio's wishes, kept putting her in these big, bulky clothes. She was wearing pea coats and army things because he wanted it to be real. He didn't want the girl to walk around in real sexy clothing because that's not who she was. She was a blue-collar kid. The sexiness came out of when she performed.
Prior to that, you know, when I was doing commercials, I always liked women wearing kind of oversized stuff, t-shirts, things like that. Actually, I guess girls in men's clothing always looks good, you know what I'm saying, 'cause hanging off them. And so that sort of look I had done before, but I wasn't prepared for the effect that it had on people.
People ask me how this sweatshirt that became so famous arose. It wasn't anything I invented. I think the fact that she wears that costume on the poster and the movie became such a big hit, that look became validated, and many girls who identified with it wanted to look that way, so they started wearing it. But a few years before, when I was in art school in Philadelphia, I used to go to